Welcome back, everybody. The passive voice is our topic for today. We are going to look at a couple of sample sentences. I'm going to explain to you about the form and when to use this particular structure. We are going to practice with some sentences, and at the end of the lesson there will be a short quiz for you to complete. And this time I set up the quiz as a challenge, so all you will have to do is click on the link in the description and you will be able to complete the quiz directly. So let's get straight into it. Passive sentences, you will be able to use them correctly. More specifically, we are focusing on the past simple form of the passives. Let's have a look at a couple of examples so you will have a clear idea of what we are talking about. On this slide, you will see 4 sentences. I'll just go through them quickly. The house was abandoned 10 years ago. The package was delivered yesterday. These cars were made in China. The telephone was invented by Graham Bell in 1876. Now, you might ask me the question, why do we need this structure? Why can't we say, instead of the house was abandoned, we could simply say, they abandoned this house 10 years ago. Or instead of saying the package was delivered yesterday, we could say the postman delivered the package. Or someone delivered the package. Or instead of these cars were made in China, say they made these cars in China. Telephone was invented by Graham Bell. We could start the sentence with Graham Bell and say Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876. Don't these pairs of sentences mean exactly the same? Well, technically, yes, they do. However, when we use passive sentences, the key for us is the focus. What are we focusing on? Okay? Are we focusing on the person or the thing that did the action, or are we focusing on the action itself or the subject of the action? So the thing or person that something was done to. Okay? This will be the main question for us, and I can answer this question right now actually, that passive is used when we don't know, or it's not important who did the action or what did the action. The action itself or the subject is more important. Okay? Now, we need to talk a little bit about the form. As I told you at the beginning of the session, we are focusing now on past simple, the past simple form of the passive. And as such, we are going to be using was and were and the past participle of the verb. Past participle is not an expression that you necessarily need to know. Sometimes they call it the third form of the verb. We are going to be looking at examples of that as well. So, was and were and the past participle. Examples, a couple of more examples. The building was completed last month. You will see the verb consists of 2 parts, was and completed. Or the 3 walkways were built between the towers. Were built, because we are talking about 3 things, 3 walkways, so we will have to use were and the past participle. These examples also clearly show that the work and the fact that the building was completed, is more important to us than the question of who completed the work. Okay? The fact that 3 walkways were built in this case is more important to us. That's our focus for us. The fact that 3 walkways were built is more important than who built them. Okay? Now, I've explained this one already, but let's just have a quick look. So, as you see here, passive is used when the person or a thing that did the action is unknown, unimportant, or not the focus of interest. If you remember our sentences about the telephone, you will also remember that if we want to say who did the action, we can do that by using by, but then it will be called the agent of the action. So by Graham Bell in that case. Right. I mentioned this third form or past participle of the verbs. I just want to show you a couple of examples there. Really, we are only looking at 4 verbs I picked up here. If you just Google list of irregular verbs or past participle, you will find loads and loads of pages. Actually, it might be a better idea to just Google list of most common irregular verbs, so that you won't be overwhelmed with 20 pages lists and so on. So verbs in English, that will probably be another lesson as well at some point. Let's just say now there are regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs, as you will see here, the first 2 examples, are fairly straightforward and easy. The past forms as well as the past participle forms will simply take ed as an ending, and design becomes designed, export becomes exported. There are, however, irregular verbs where this logic, this rule just simply doesn't work. The good news here with irregular verbs, for example, write and find, see, write becomes written and find becomes found. I always say the good news is here that there is no rule to learn. So you will just have to find a list and just learn that list by heart. That's where we are. So past participles, this is what we will need, or we will need these verb forms when we are forming passive sentences. Keep in mind always, here we will use was and were. So was designed, were exported, was written, was found, and so on and so on. There are many different forms, but today we focus on the past. When we say something was exported, we could as well say, if it's in the future, we say it will be exported or has been designed. But we just focus on was and were, past simple. Okay, so let's have a quick look at a couple of sentences. The task here is to use the correct passive forms of the verbs. So here we've got, they designed the area to appeal to young people. Now always remember 2 parts to each passive sentence. Okay, at least the verb will have 2 parts. The correct form of to be, in our case, was or were, and the past participle. Okay, would you like to take a screenshot and fill in the answers? 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first one, the area was designed to appeal to young people. 2, the company exported their products all over the world. The company's products, now be careful here, remember was or were, but here, because we are talking about more than one thing, we are talking about products. So which one are we going to use, was or were? That's correct. We'll say were exported. Okay, company's products were exported all over the world, and you can clearly see here the products, and the fact that they were exported seems to be our focus. That's what we are focusing on. Now, I've got 3 more sentences for you. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet around 1600. Hamlet, okay, was written or were written in this case? Was written. Hamlet was written by Shakespeare around 1600. Scientists found toxic chemicals in the river. Again, we are talking about chemicals, so not one chemical, but many different chemicals. So we will of course have to use were. Toxic chemicals were found in the river. Last, the police closed the road to deal with the accident. The road was closed by the police so they could deal with the accident. Okay, so that is briefly the past simple passive with 5 examples we looked at, well, 5 sentences that we solved together, and a couple of more examples at the beginning of the session. Questions? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Now, I will leave you with a quick task to complete. This time, as I mentioned, I copied the link in the description of the video. A quick quiz, 10 questions, multiple choice. You will see the first example here on your screen. Toxic chemicals found in the river. Were found, was found, or were finded. Oh, actually, I'm giving you the first answer here, so makes it a bit easier. All right, so all you have to do is in the description, click on the link. The challenge will be live, I think, until the 7th of March, which is, well, a little bit over 2 weeks. However, if in case the challenge is not live anymore, then you will just have to go on to Quizizz.com and search for past simple passive, and you will find this task there. And with that, thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.